Dear devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Omagana Timidandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, on this day, 48 years ago, I took sannyas in Lima, Peru. And actually, the reason I took sannyas was not to get Mahaprasadam or not to get respect. But the reason I took sannyas was to dedicate myself fully to Srila Prabhupada's preaching mission. As you know, in 1977, Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, left this mortal world. And of course, when Prabhupada left, the initial response that all of us had was extreme sorrow, crying, devastation. I wouldn't say hopelessness, but at least it was like a little bit of a dark cloud. How will this world go on without its great Acharya? Then, in many classes, of course, we heard part of the fourth canto, actually part four, and part of the story of Puranjana, where the queen loses her husband, and the husband is figuratively the spiritual master, and the queen is figuratively the disciple. And the queen decides to leave this world thinking of her husband. In other words, the disciple decides to leave this world thinking of his or her spiritual master. So the analogy, of course, is, which Srila Prabhupada makes very clear in the purport to this verse and some of the other verses, is that when the spiritual master leaves this world, the disciple should be ready to leave this world too, unless the disciple will carry out the mission of the spiritual master. And in this regard, there is another example that Prabhupada gives, and that's the story of Kunti and Madri and Pandu. When Pandu left this world because he got attracted to Madri, there was some discussion. Who would leave this world? Would it be Kunti or Madri with the funeral pyre of Pandu? And it was decided that Madri would, because she could not adequately carry out the mission of Pandu, which actually the mission was personified in Pandu's sons, the Pancha Pandavas, the five Pandavas. And Queen Kunti, or Kunti, could carry that out. So she stayed in this world. And she carried it out very well, protecting her sons, and her sons protected her. So, of course, that doesn't mean we're advocating that one leaves this world when the spiritual master leaves this world. But the spiritual master leaving this world should give us an impetus even more than normal, because normally we should have an impetus to take shelter of the Vani or instructions of the spiritual master. But even more so, we should take shelter of the Vani instructions, which means the mission, the explanation of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And in this way, Prabhupada points out that the super soul manifests oneself to that particular person who is so dedicated to the Vani instructions, mission of the spiritual master. So I was thinking like that, hearing all these verses and thinking, yes, I have to take sannyas, because sannyas means 100% dedication to the mission. There's no question of anything else, because one has to be Ekeha Kurunandana. That means one pointed, And in this way, one should not entertain any other thought or any other path in life other than serving the spiritual master, and particularly sannyasa is meant for preaching. Now, that doesn't mean that every disciple of Prabhupada should have taken sannyasa. No. But one should take sannyasa at heart when the spiritual master leaves to carry out his mission, which means be wholly and solely dedicated. But for those who are preachers, then sannyas is very applicable, and it is a very good strategy if one is able to embrace that particular order. So I decided to do that. And I was actually supposed to take sannyas in 1979, but I took it in 1978. And the reason being, I took it in 78, a very good reason, was that we had a urgent situation in South America. And it was an interesting situation. Some of the devotees had broken away from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And so I actually decided to dedicate myself to try to bring the devotees back and preach to the devotees and help to reestablish the mission. And I was instrumental in that to a certain degree. And then after we worked for a while at that, and then we came to North America to carry out Srila Prabhupada's mission. And since then, I have been serving His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada's mission here in North America. And actually, later on, I became GVC in different places in the world, not only in North America. Originally, I started being GVC in North America. Then I expanded that to Fiji, not Australia. I have disciples in Australia and New Zealand. In Fiji Islands and some places in Europe. And I continue to execute many of those responsibilities. I don't have a European zone anymore, but we have students, disciples all over the world, and we travel and try to share Krishna consciousness. And I hope to be able to do this for the rest of this mortal existence, however long Srila Prabhupada wants to keep me in this particular frame. I'm happy to do this. And then I'm happy to come back and serve Prabhupada life after life. I actually don't have much desire to do anything else other than to serve His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, life after life. And that's sannyasa, and that's literally going back to Godhead. One can go back to Godhead in this very life by being 100% dedicated to the mission of the spiritual master. And that's the lesson I'd like to give on this day of my sannyas taking. And this is also the disappearance day of Srivas Thakur, who is an incarnation of Narada Muni, the original sannyasi. That's actually Lord Chaitanya is the original sannyasi. So the incarnation of Narada Muni, and Narada Muni travels all around Radhika Ramana Namane with his Veena. And so I basically have a modern edition of the Veena, which is my guitar. So I'm traveling all over with my Veena. Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada.